So Unity posted an announcement today on their forum regarding the malware incident that I covered in my previous video. So I wanted to take some time and read this to you. And actually, this actually answered all of my questions from the previous video. So I'm actually kind of pleased about this. So hopefully you will be too. This week's release of Unity Hub 3.1.0 included an update to a compromised version of the Node ICP library. By the way, this is wrong. It's supposed to be IPC, not ICP. IPC stands for Interprocess Communication. I don't know what ICP stands for. So the compromised version of the library, an open source package that is used by the Hub, this resulted in the generation of an empty text file on the desktop of users who upgraded to Hub 3.1.0. Our initial investigation did not reveal any further additions of unwanted code or other unexpected behavior. While there do appear to be recent changes to the library that include malicious code, those were not included in our Hub 3.1.0 update. Although we have eliminated the root cause that led to this incident, we are committed to improving our internal QA processes to prevent future problems in Unity Hub. A hotfix was released 4 hours after the incident was discovered with Hub 3.1.1, and we plan to update you on the status of our audit as soon as possible. The security and any perceived vulnerabilities in Unity software remain our top concern. So this is not bad. In fact, it's actually, I guess, pretty good. There's a few things in here that we need to go over. First off, so this just explains what happened initially, and then it also tells us this important bit right here, that they claim that malicious code, which when they link to it here, it actually brings this up. It brings up all of this code that I showed in my other video, where it deletes your files if you're under a certain IP address. So that code actually, they claim, does not appear in the Unity Hub, which is good because that means no one was actually affected by it. And that would actually answer my question regarding this blog post here, because that's what I was asking was, well, if this code was part of that, then why wouldn't you say that in this release here? So this was a much better phrased way to say that, and that's really what I was looking for out of this. So if they had done that yesterday, I probably wouldn't have questioned them at all over this. Also, what they mention here is that they did act pretty quickly, and they plan to update us on an audit, which might be interesting. Their source is closed, which means we can't actually see it ourselves, so we have to trust what they say. So they're going to do an audit of their own code and make sure that there's nothing else. So use your own judgment on that, I guess. And again, they reiterate that they care about our security very much, so we'll see about that in the future. I don't know. That just seems like a general statement to try and regain our trust, of course. So I don't even use Unity anymore, so it doesn't really matter to me what they say or do. I don't use them as an engine. I use my own game engine. Now, the only thing that you might ask yourself is, well, how do we really know that the code isn't in there, that the malicious code that they're saying isn't in there? And that would be through one specific piece of information that apparently I missed yesterday for yesterday's video, that I was informed about through a viewer who pointed this out to me, so I appreciate that. And I wanted to bring this up because it might shed some light on this issue for other people as well. So this is a really detailed article that basically explains everything in a really, really in-depth way. I won't read the whole thing here because it's really long and technical, but I want to distill the main point here, which is that something that I didn't know was that the malware actually it acted differently in different versions of it. So you have version 9, and version 9 is the stable release, which is when programs depend on code, they usually depend on the stable release because they don't want to deal with the experimental release because they don't know if something might break or there might be an issue in it. So they rely on the stable release. So when Unity and all these other programs are depending on the stable release, they're expecting it to behave a certain way. Now, version 10 was an experimental release, and in version 10, that is where the malicious code was activated. So again, this might get really confusing because of all the version differences, but version 10 had the malicious code, and now actually it's kind of hard to find version 10 because it got strobed off of Node Package Manager, and it's hard for me to find to verify all this stuff. That's why it's so confusing. A lot of the information is being either deleted or scrubbed because it's either malicious or the guy's trying to censor what's going on. So it's really hard to find this and keep the story straight here. But version 10 is what had the malicious code in it that destroyed files. And then he later changes to version 11, presumably after some sort of outcry on the GitHub issues, although I really can't verify what the sequence was here because there's a lot that goes on, and a lot of people are still commenting on this to this day. So he changed it from version 10 to version 11, such that version 11 no longer has the part where it deletes files. Instead, version 11 has this thing called peace not war, which simply creates a text file on the user's machine. And it was supposed to have stuff in it, but because of a bug, it doesn't have anything in the text file. So it's just an empty text file that says, "With love from America." So that's version 11, and that was created on March 8th, according to this article. And a week later, on March 15th, for whatever reason, version 9, which again was the stable release that Unity was watching, updated. It was updated to have this functionality in it of that peace not war module. So peace not war, meaning the thing that creates an empty text file, got into version 9, which is likely to be what Unity was watching for, and because it's a stable release. And so because of that, that's how it got into the Unity code. So then you might ask yourself, well, okay, that would make sense if the Unity code was watching for version 9, but how do we know it wasn't dealing with version 10 that had the malicious code in it? And the answer to that is that, well, if those things are mutually exclusive, then obviously we're getting user reports of, if you look on the forums, people were saying that they found this text file, then that means they weren't dealing with the other type, which means that they were in fact dealing with version 9, and that makes sense because it corroborates with their blog post here. So it all adds up, what they're saying here and what they're saying here. I believe them at this point that there isn't an actual issue with deleting of hard drives, and that is actually nice to hear for once. However, the downside of this is that, we actually weren't that close, or weren't that far away from having that actually happen the other way around, where if the guy was just a little bit more malicious or whatever, feeling risky or dangerous, he could have put that in there, and it wasn't that big of a difference, right? He could have just pushed the other version and made that change. And Unity would not have been able to do anything about that. And that's the really scary thing about this, which is what people are up in arms about. So I realized that my post got deleted, likely because of that issue, because I said to them in my forum post that I was making the statement that it seemed as though that the deletion of files was in their program, but if it's not, then I guess that's not true. So it's okay if I'm wrong about that, and that's why they deleted my post. I don't think that they should have deleted it, though. I think they should have left it up for discussion and told me, an answer to the post saying, actually, no, you're wrong. But I think from a PR standpoint, they didn't want to do that. Unity didn't want to do that because they wanted to wait for something like this where they could write this out and I could get my answer that way anyway. So I guess that makes sense from a company PR standpoint. I don't really like it, though, from a customer support standpoint. So whatever, what's done is done, and the good news is that nobody got hurt by this. As well, no one got hurt from using Unity. I'm sure people got hurt from using the actual code on version 10, whatever it was using version 10 of that Node IPC module. So again, there's way too much to even go into on this, because who knows how many thousands of programs utilize this. There's no way to be sure of how many people were affected by this and in what way. So I'm really not, I'm certainly not condoning what the person did here. I just want to clarify that if you use Unity, you're probably okay. You probably weren't under any sort of attack like this. But again, if evidence arises to the contrary, then I'll change my opinion on that. But as far as I can tell, it seems like it was mostly harmless, as what they said in the blog post. I just wish that they had a better description up here, because otherwise I wouldn't have pressed the issue. I also would nitpick a little bit on their wording of this as well, just to be a little bit difficult here at the end, just because they don't really go into detail describing what actually happened. They just say it's an empty text file. They don't, they could describe what it is. They could say the file name, like, if you've seen this text file, then that's what it is. And, why it was made, who made it, and what purpose was it, what it was doing, the whole backstory to it. And then they link to this little thing. They just link to this little article that doesn't even show you the deobfuscated code. So it doesn't really explain anything to the average person reading this. They should have linked to this article that actually goes through the whole thing and explains what everything is doing. And, I think that would have been a much better way for them to handle that. That way you could actually see, oh, this was actually malware designed to target a specific political group of people. Actually, not even a political group, just a nation of people. And then they changed it to be, whatever it is now. And it still has that political tone to it. And for whatever reason, they just decided not to say that in this update here. And it's a little tiny update posted on their forum, so it's not like on the front page or anything. They're trying to really hide this, I think, as much as possible, while also trying to look good. They say up here, we stand with Ukraine, so they're not afraid to take a political stance. But right here, they're not going to go into the political details of this on their little blog post here. So I think they definitely could have done a better job with that. But going into more details, and in fact, this page right here even says, to give them some credit, they said, look, we stand with Ukraine too, but we don't think that this behavior is acceptable. It undermines it undermines the real people who are actually really trying to help. So, I just think that this should be reported on a little bit more transparently. So that's what I'm trying to do. So again, I think that just about covers it. I hope this makes sense to everybody and gives a little bit of relief that hopefully no one was impacted by the Unity issue. While there were definitely some people who were impacted by the Node IPC issue, I don't think Unity caused anyone any harm, and hopefully they don't in the future. So if you choose to still use Unity after this, good luck to you, because who knows what might pop up in future versions that is outside of your control and their control. I mean, I used to not like Unity because I was afraid of what they would put in, but now I'm afraid of Unity because of what they're not putting in, or what other people are deciding for them to put in. So, so that's about it. So, see ya.